problem seems to be when people, right off the bat, they get so enthusiastic about cacao that they eat absolutely copious amounts of it. Now, I never really have done any exorbitant amount of it. I've done like significant amounts of it that I would not do on a daily basis. But for instance, I've never done 1/3 of a gallon of cacao beans. Now, if you've happened to be someone who's done that, or that's what you were doing when you first got into using this product, using very large amounts of it, and you came to the conclusion that this is an unhealthy thing because you were eating such large amounts of it, I would not say that that gives you any sort of credibility in vilifying this product in terms of its health effects on a person. If you were to start out in doing very small amounts of it and gradually increase it to a moderate amount of raw cacao, you're going to find that it's not going to do this to you. But if you do sort of large amounts of it here and there and get pretty messed up from it with that intention of using it as a drug, yeah, that's how negative stereotypes of food and products and different things come about. Kind of like alcohol. I'm no fan of alcohol personally, but just because there's this massive industry where people are abusing it in every form does not mean that alcohol itself is a horrendous thing. Alcohol exists in our bodies in minute amounts and it has a purpose. We can use alcohol to extract components from herbs, and then we take that tincture into our bodies, and it actually, the benefits we get from the herbs and the higher rate of absorption from the alcohol in such a tiny amount actually offsets the extremely minute amount of problems that this could be causing. And yes, alcohol is considered a poison, but very small amounts of a poison, as I've already explained, are not a problem, and we take them in every day in every type of plant food that we consume. There's actually been one study on raw cacao that I'm aware of. I would love to see more studies in the field on specifically raw cacao and its effects on human physiology. However, we just have this one to go on, as well as the vast amount of research on processed chocolate, which is still valid, but it's obviously different from raw cacao. We know that much for sure. And again, check my article out in the top right-hand info box if you want more information on all the benefits that raw cacao has as a food in general, as well as benefits over the processed chocolate. So Dr. Gabriel Cousins, who is the director of the Tree of Life Institute in Patagonia, Arizona, did a study on some individuals at his institute who were consuming raw cacao. And he has a specialty in treating diabetes there at his institute. And he found that raw cacao is in fact very beneficial to diabetes. It does not cause much of a significant raise in blood sugar as other foods. In fact, it's one of the lowest he's ever seen in any kind of food there is. And he found that the blood sugar regulating properties of cacao were so beneficial that he actually got on board with a company that makes raw chocolate products. And he uses raw cacao as something for people coming to the institute that are working on diabetes to have as a food that they can take that helps them lift their mood and become happier, because they're not on such a rigorous aesthetic type fast. They're actually getting some things they're familiar with. Some of the other things he noticed about it was that cacao was not liver toxic. It did become liver toxic when it was combined with high sugar additives, such as the sugar you see in everyday chocolate products, and agave nectar that a lot of people combine with raw chocolate in smoothies, etc. So it's pretty obvious that fructose is an extremely harmful compound to the liver in large quantities. When it happens to be combined with something that has these alkaloids that do affect the liver in a certain way, they potentiate each other, and it can cause a disruption of the liver's function, but only when it's combined in this way. There was no correspondence to raw cacao that's when it's combined with either natural sweeteners like that have a low glycemic index, such as stevia or xylitol, or ones that were primarily based on sucrose, and not the high fructose sweeteners such as agave. Now, earlier in the series I was talking about how a lot of different types of animals have slower metabolism for theobromine and xanthins in general, but I want to relate to you this one instance where that was very interesting. Recently, this past summer, perhaps maybe around the time that this fellow unfortunately fell into this vat of chocolate, I'm not sure. I think this animal might have, this animal was a bit later, maybe in August, but this dog died at the age of 21. I believe right now it has the record for the oldest living dog to have ever lived. That's actually confirmed. I'm sure that age 21, yes, it's very old for a dog, but I'm sure there's other species of dogs and examples that were definitely older, but of course we have to go by what is actually proven, and this is the oldest living dog to have ever lived that's been proven. And I believe the dog's name was Chanel, or Channel, and most of her diet happened to be table scraps from the table. So this is an example of a dog that lived to be quite old, and it was living mostly on something that isn't even what the dog would normally eat in the wild. It happened to be table scraps, mostly human food. And the interesting thing about this is that the dog actually ate a lot of chocolate. It even happened to once eat an entire bag of Reese's peanut butter cups, and it was fine. And this dog never had problems with metabolizing the chocolate. And this got me thinking that even within a set species of an animal that has been labeled as not being able to tolerate this alkaloid, there are perhaps exceptions that have occurred in these animals. And I'm just throwing it out there that things can be not as they seem. I'm definitely going to caution anyone that has a pet, whether it's a parrot, a cat, or a dog. These animals all have definitely had high rates of death from consuming even small amounts of dark chocolate. Keep the chocolate away from them, and if you do happen to find that they've consumed some, call an animal emergency service of some sort in your local area. So some other interesting cultural snippets that I'd like to share is, again, this past summer, there was a woman in Britain who turned 100, and her story made headlines because she had quite a sweet tooth. She actually consumed 30 chocolate bars a week, and she's done that for about 80 years of her life. And this was a processed type of chocolate, obviously, and it wasn't a high quality kind. It was actually milk chocolate, so that's even more devoid of the benefits of chocolate. Yet there was still a lot of benefits this woman got from it, because her lifestyle, from what was presented in the article, wasn't anything special. She didn't even really have specifically amazing genetics. So really the only factor we can go on is her consumption of this nutrient-dense food. So on top of that, the oldest woman to have ever lived that's been confirmed by science is Jean-Louise Calment of France. And she lived to be the age of 122, and she had specific lifestyle factors as a French woman that were very beneficial to her health. They live very relaxed lifestyles, they don't stress much at all, and she happened to consume 2.5 pounds of baker's chocolate a week. So this is a very large amount. That's perhaps the one instance that I've heard of that comes remotely close to this 10.8 pounds of dark baker's chocolate that is required to reach an LD50 in humans. But again, that LD50 of 10.8 pounds of dark bitter chocolate needs to be consumed all at once, not spread over a week, and she was only consuming 2.5 pounds over a week. So she had no negative effects from this. And next, there was the instance of Sarah Noss, who is the third oldest confirmed person to have ever lived. And she consumed chocolate as well on a regular basis, nowhere near as much as Jean-Louise Calment, but in her biographies that I've come across, it does mention the fact that she enjoyed chocolate quite a bit.